everyone. Welcome to another amazing episode of Hurstum Story. And today we have a very special guest with us. I met Richa Bansal almost 5 or 6 years ago on Instagram, and I've had the pleasure of interviewing her once before as well for Hurstum Story podcast. And right now, I can say very confidently that she is on my speed dial. Like I call her anytime I need advice or someone to vent out to. So we've become friends over the last few years. With a rich educational background and an even richer professional journey, Richa is one coach that can help you jump into leadership roles way faster than you would on your own. McKinsey's Women in the Workplace report in 2022 shared shocking statistics on how only 82 women get promoted to the first level of management for every 100 men. Richa is doing the work to change that, and she can help you too. Richa is a leadership and job search coach with a decade of experience excelling in corporate world on her own terms. She previously worked with Amazon, leading large-scale programs to help the company hire the best talent on earth, and with Schlumberger, leading a large engineering team to deliver multi-million-dollar projects for global oil field clients like Exxon, Shell, and BP. As one of the only women in the room for most of her career, Richa has seen firsthand the struggles of women as they navigate the corporate ladder. In 2019, she founded Pinkcareers to deliver actionable, no-fluff career advice to ambitious professionals and accelerate their career growth. Richa has partnered with over 20 Fortune 500 companies, universities, and the Government of Canada to deliver her leadership programs and coached hundreds of high potential professionals on how to ditch limiting beliefs and leverage the power of personal branding to double their career compensation and impact. Richa has a bachelor's degree from IIT Delhi in India, a master's from Purdue University, and an MBA from Rice University. When she's now working on Pinkcareers, she loves to travel the world with her husband and two little boys. So let's talk to Richa today to learn more about how you can land your first leadership role in STEM. Hi, Richa. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey Prasha, thank you for inviting me again on your podcast for the opportunity to have this conversation. Every time I have a chat with you, I am amazed at the type of conversations we have because we truly have the rawest, no fluff conversations where we take each other behind the scenes on what is working, what is not working. And I'm hoping today in our conversation as well, we can share really actionable step by step and really raw honest advice and what will get you to your first leadership role. So I'm just excited to have this open conversation with you
Yeah.
and our community.
Yes, I love it. Excellent. So let's kick this off. I just want to make sure that we are live on LinkedIn. I think we should be. But that being said, yes, we are. So that's awesome. Let's do this. So tell us a little bit about your immigrant journey, Richa. So you've done some incredible things. Again, I really look up to you because you're an IIT, and I think a lot of people look up to you for that reason. So tell us your journey from IIT all the way to now in Houston. So just give us a little bit background.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like many of the people listening in, I'm sure, like in your community, in my community, I came to US to pursue my American dream. So back in 2009, when I graduated from IIT Delhi, the right thing to do was to do your master's degree from US, and so that's what I did. I came to Purdue to do my master's in mechanical engineering. And after that, my dream was to build a family and a life here in the US. And Schlumberger was one company that was really, really exciting. Their 24/7 lifestyle promise was something that really spoke to me. I never envisioned myself as somebody who would be sitting behind the desk all the time. So when Schlumberger presented an opportunity, I decided to take up a job as a field engineer with them, which meant that I put on the hard hats and the coveralls, and I flew in helicopters and worked off the coast of Malaysia to help drill for oil. So that's what I did for a couple of years. And after that was done, I came back to US to come work in engineering. And so I joined their engineering center in Houston and did that for a few years. And all the while, I was kind of pestering my company to start my green card process. Because I knew eventually, like, I have to get my green card process. I'm on a visa. There's only limited time I had on an L1 visa. And the feedback that I got from the company was, your skills are transferable, which essentially meant that We can put you anywhere, everywhere in the world. So we're not going to do your green card.
Mm.
Okay, so your skills are transferable really meant that we can ship you off to wherever and we're not going to do your green card. And that was a big problem because, like many others listening here, one day I would have to pack my bags, sell everything that I have, and take my like uproot my family and move out. And that was just not acceptable to me. And I realized at that time, like company can give me excuses. They're gonna do what's best for them, and so that
Mm.
means that I have to do what's best for me, which means that I have to figure out how do I secure my own green card or how do I secure my own immigration status if the company is
Mm.
not going to do one for me. And the bigger challenge for me was that I was not on a H-1B visa, which means I couldn't jump ship to any other company. I was gonna be with Schlumberger. The moment I leave the company, I would have to pack my bags, go back to India because I was on an L1. And
Right.
I started looking to ways on how can I strengthen my profile, my personal brand, so that I can self-petition my immigration, I can self-petition my green card in the EB-1A
Mm.
category. I don't have a PhD. I don't have like 20 papers. I don't have hundreds of citations. And I approached a few lawyers, and essentially all I got was that you have to have a Nobel Prize,
Mm.
literally, or a PhD in publications and leading papers or whatnot to secure your EB-1A. And I told them, in fact, one lawyer told me, you have a 1% chance of getting through EB-1A.
Oof.
And I said, I will take that 1% chance. You tell me what I need to do to make my profile stronger. So that's what I did.
Nice.
I took their guidance. I built up my profile. I remember the day I had just had my second baby. I was literally 4 days, like he was 4 days old. And I had gone to a SP event where I was a
Mm.
judge of a student paper contest, like literally like 4 or 5 days old. Right. And so that is the amount of I
Great.
think dedication it needs if you want to take control of your career. So long
Yeah.
story short, I did build up my profile. I self petitioned for my EB-1A and I got through. And life
Yay.
took me to Canada for a few years, but now I'm back. I am back. We have our green card. We are in Houston. So for any of you who are in Houston, say hi to me. I would love
Yeah.
to chat with you. And here we are.
Excellent. No, I really love your journey, and I think this whole like taking charge of not only your career but like your immigration status, and like because it gets in the way of everyone's success, and it just slows everyone down. So it seems like we want to speed up our career and our journey, and we move to America, but it seems like in some ways it just slows us down because we can't start our businesses, we can't start our own, anything that we want to do on side. And so it is a huge topic and of concern, and more now that it seems like people are not going to get green card from the right channels or just through employers anytime soon. That is just becoming like decades and decades of wait. So
Absolutely. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. And even if you do get it through your employer, it's going to be stuck in a queue that's decades long. And it's not
Right.
just slows you down, Prasha, it really stops you dead in your tracks because
Right.
it was the source of our, it was the biggest source of our anxiety, not
Of
having,
course.
that immigration status. And I really urge everybody to really not let anyone, any lawyer tell you that you can't do it.
Yeah.
To work on strengthening your profile and work on strengthening your backup option.
Yeah.
Our backup option was we did a Canadian PR. Right? And so
Mm.
think about what's important to you in your career. Like think about, I know we're going to talk more about how to
Right.
step into your first leadership role, but it's really up to you to design your career and life the way
Hmm.
you want to.
Right.
You
Yeah.
can take control. You can get to your first leadership role,
Yeah.
right? You can get to the type of roles and the earn the type of money that you want to. You
Yeah.
can start the side hustle. You can situate your family in North America if that's what you want.
Yeah, I love it. So tell us a little bit about how did you maneuver from like mechanical engineering into Amazon? And like, I'm sure a lot of people, including myself, because I have a mechanical engineering degree, and I'm like, I know a lot of people are interested in that kind of transition as well. And I know the paybacks could be really huge for somebody coming from those traditional sectors where the money is not as big as tech. So talk to us like really briefly on like how did you move from like a non-tech background into a technology company like Amazon?
Yeah, so I've always considered myself to be kind of like the jack of all trades and queen of none. And in between, in between, when I did my mechanical engineering degree to when I moved to Amazon, I'd done like several roles in a variety of different functions, I want to say. So my journey started as a field engineer working in Malaysia. To then I moved into engineering. I did some hardcore mechanical engineering for a bit. Moved to manufacturing for a little while. Then I purposefully moved into supply chain. From there to engineering management, where I started leading teams and starting taking ownership of P&L and kind of building that portfolio.
Mm,
To then moved into corporate strategy to ultimately recruiting programs at Amazon.
mm,
So for anybody who tells me who asks me, Richa, how do I move from what I do right now, where I have this deep technical expertise, to now maybe move into a completely different role or function? I encourage them to think about not about like the role or the function of the industry they're in, but really
mm,
think about what is the underlying skill set that they are relying on that's transferable across the role they're in right now to the role that they want to get to.
hmm,
So let me give you an example. So in all of the roles that I did in engineering, in supply chain, in manufacturing, corporate strategy, one of my underwriting skills is program management, like the
mm,
underwriting skills of being able to think through multiple things that are going on at the same time and creating a strategy from it, an execution plan from it, like looking at how can you take things from 0 to 1.
mm,
And then just the skills of leadership in terms of motivating teams and people cross functionally, as well as in the hierarchy that you may have as a leader, how to motivate people to work towards common goal. And that's kind of like my skill set around executive leadership, executive management, program management, stakeholder management, getting buy-in,
mm,
defining vision, defining strategy. And it's the underwriting skill set that can be applied to roles in oil and gas. That
mm.
underwriting skill set can be applied to corporate strategy. Of course, there are some other skill sets that you have to build on top of that. And that underwriting skill set is what took me to Amazon as well. So it's
Mm,
not so much about moving from oil and gas to tech, but it's really more about how can I utilize the skills. So how
mm,
can I first fully understand the skills that I have right now and the transferable skills that I have right now, and then how can I demonstrate that these transferable skills can be applied to this new role that I'm
mhm.
interested in as well.
Yeah. I love that. So, were you super intentional about this from the get go, or was this something that was more naturally like unfolding for you? Because I think that's the other thing too. Like, I've done a bunch of different roles in manufacturing, and for me, it was more like a little bit thought through, but a little bit also very natural. Like, people identifying my skill set and like mentors and people pushing me to like go for things that I would not traditionally go for. But then when I look at a lot of my clients or talk to a lot of people, it seems like they don't have that kind of like sponsorship or that kind of like, nobody is helping them with that kind of making that kind of transition. So what was your strategy, or what would be your suggestion to people who don't have that kind of a visibility in an organization or support in an organization to like sort of create this zigzag path of like of like creating the skill set they might be really strong at, but also like developing it, getting experience so they can move into other industries?
Yeah, and that's such a fabulous question, and I want to share a quick story with you that will help demonstrate the level of intentionality I started
Mm-hmm.
to bring in terms of where I want my career to go.
Mm,
So a couple years into me coming back from Malaysia and being in that mechanical engineering role, I was starting to find myself just kind of like stuck. Okay, I'm like I knew I was ready to move to management positions, but I wasn't really moving anywhere, and so I was kind of like starting to find myself stuck. So that is where I started reaching out to mentors. I started looking up to people who were like at least a couple levels ahead of me, right? A lot of times we look at mentors who are kind of way up there in the executive roles. They're not always relatable, right? So what I did was also like talk to people who are high up, but then also started finding mentors and people who were maybe a couple levels ahead of me, like it's like the positions that I was aspiring to, in the next few years. And from there started kind of building, started taking note of what are those repeatable skill sets that are required if I need to make that jump to my first leadership roles. Okay.
mm,
And there were two that I identified, and that I was very, very clear with my management on. I need to get exposure to those two skills so that I can meet my career goals. So at Schlumberger, a few years, once you are, I want to say about 4 or 5 years into your career with Schlumberger, you get this opportunity to have, or at least at the time, you had this opportunity to have a formal conversation with your management and talk. You co-create what your goals are for 5 years and kind of skill sets you want to get. And I remember getting into that meeting and telling my skip level manager, so my N+2, my manager's manager, that 5 years from now, I want to be the business development manager. Okay. This business development manager with this guy I really, really aspired to. He's like 20 years into the career. And so you told me like some people have great sponsors, some don't. I was one of those fortunate one, like the skip manager that I still am in touch with. He humored me and he told me, absolutely, there is no doubt that we'll get there. It's not going to be, maybe not in 5 years, but maybe like 10 years from now. Okay. And then so then we kind of agreed on that timeline. Okay. Like expectation setting on where do I want to go, how long it could take, and so on. And then I told him, I want to gain these two skills that will take me to where I want to be eventually. And that's kind of what he agreed to. And those two skills were, if you want to move into leadership roles, if at the time I wanted to move into leadership roles, I wanted to get exposure to managing people in some form or fashion. Okay. And then I wanted exposure to P&L management.
Right.
Okay. And those two skills are so important. And I would also say that every first time manager has never managed people before. It goes without saying. So to say that, oh, how can you have exposure to leading people without actually having led people, or without actually having been in leadership role is just ironical, right? But you could be in a team lead position. You could be in kind of roles that are outside of your core fundamental duties, right? You could be part of leading an intra-departmental committee. You could be leading a support organization inside your company. You could be part of a working board outside. Like, I had started getting some leadership exposure by being part of a SPE Young Professionals Board, which I was also being part of as I was building my profile. So like finding ways and finding support from your management so that you can get exposure to leading people. That's one. And then second, being really clear about that the next role that I want to get to, I want to lead P&L. Not just a budget. So you lead budgets when you are in cost centers, and you lead a P&L, like profit and loss, when you are in a profit center, where you're part of the company that makes money. And so many people I know, like our clients that I coach now, even at senior roles, I found they're stuck in cost centers, they're in support roles, where they're not leading a profit. Like their scope is not to generate revenue. Their support is only to cut cost or manage cost. But getting clear on those two things, that I want to lead people and I want to lead a P&L, and then seeking support from your management so you can find opportunity to do those, is the fastest way to build your confidence in like getting to your first leadership role and then accelerating fast up from there.
Yeah. No, that's definitely super helpful because, as you were talking, I was thinking about my own journey, and it was so, and you have to be, and I feel like you'll agree to this, but one, you have a lot of bias stacked against you. So don't expect people to just like, even though we had the mentors and support and visibility, it still was a lot of work on like even on my end when I was I was in my corporate life, is like I had to push for things, I had to ask for things, I had to like continuously remind people that this is important to me. I had to do really big outreach efforts, and then also follow up and follow through. Like that was something somebody told me early on, like if you follow up and follow through, then you could get really far in your career. And I just took it to heart, and I'm like, okay, like if I ask for something, I'm gonna see it through, that it actually happens. And you have to put in more work than your male colleagues. You have to do more. Again, you have to prove yourself a little bit more, or even if not prove, but at least you have to voice your opinion way more and ask for things way more. And I think women get really nervous at that stage of like, how can I should just get it. I deserve it. Like I should just get it. I'm doing good work. And I think there's a lot of what do you call it? Like women are putting a lot of value in performing, but to your point, they're not able to understand how that performance supports the company, which is either P&L or cost savings, or you're just stuck in a support role that does not add any value to the company. So they're not paying attention to those two things. And that's what happened to me early on, where I asked for my first promotion and they said no. And I said, hold on, why not? And once I started to talk to people and understand, I figured out, hold on, everything I do does not make money. It just doesn't. And so I must be in projects that directly impact the P&L or output of the plant or like something. Otherwise, I will never go anywhere. Right. And I think some people don't have the like just the confidence or the connections or other things to like put this together. And that's why like the work that you and I do can help so many people, because we can bridge that gap for people and be like, hold on, these are the three things you need to do to start to move towards these leadership roles.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this is so insightful for somebody who's just like feeling so lost and frustrated and stuck, that why am I work so hard? And it's like, stop working hard.
I mean, I cannot stress this enough, Rasha, and you rightly put it that women over-index on the volume of work.
Mm-hmm.
So women over-index on the volume of work, and they think if I work more, if I simply work more, if I simply say yes to everything everybody's asking me to do, I have demonstrated how important I am for the
Right.
organization. That's simply not true, because the more you're working, the less time you have to be able to
Mm,
strategically promote your wins, to be able to bring strategic visibility to yourself and the work that you're doing, to really stop and think about, is the work that I'm doing only saving, like only adding peanuts to the company, or is actually 10x, is like 10x in ROI, right? Like, so
yep.
you need time, what I call like white space. You need that white space on your calendar to be able to stop
Think.
and think that what I am doing, is it the best use of my time, or can I do this thing better? There's just
Right.
something that I read this morning, and it's in the context of business, but it'll apply the same
Mm,
way in the context of a career as well. So what I read in the morning talked about that like great marketers don't have some extraordinary skill, they're just
mm,
able to experiment faster.
yeah.
Okay. And the way they are able to experiment faster is because they really stop and think about, like, the things that I'm doing, does it have the maximum ROI for my time? And the same thing we have to apply to our career as well. We have to be able to stop and think about, is this task that I'm doing, is this work that I'm doing, the project that I'm doing, does it have the right ROI? And if
Mm,
not, like, what else should I be doing? But for
yeah.
that, you need to work less, so you have more time on your calendar, and so you are able to do strategic things, to have those connections, to build that network, to bring visibility to your work, to meet with your N+2, to create those strategic presentations,
Mm-hmm.
status updates that you can do with your president,
Yeah.
and just be able to do things
Yeah,
that are
because
right for
it's
your
it's
career.
one thing to do the things, it's another thing to connect the things to what matters, and then it's another thing to tell the right story to the right
Yeah.
people, because otherwise nobody else is going to tell that story unless you get that story right. I mean, I've done some really terrible, like not terrible, but very small projects, but I've been able to tell really great stories about them. That even though they were
Yeah.
super small, but they created a huge impact, and I was able to like tell that story to the right stakeholders to then give me the opportunities. And I'm sure you would agree, like some people, women, and we're focusing more on women, but the issue is one, women are not working on the right projects, there are no sponsors and no people watching out for them, but then two, they're not able to tell the right stories in their review cycles, in their conversations with their managers, and a lot of this is just making their own career go slower. So I guess my next question is, if somebody's stuck in a team where they have zero managerial support and they're trying to do all of those things, they're trying to spend like 20% of their time like really pushing and strategizing and thinking and having these conversations with the managers, like not supportive at all towards their growth, which is very common, across the board, whether it's tech, non-tech. How can somebody maneuver that kind of environment where they are trying but it doesn't seem to be landing anywhere? What are your suggestions around like dealing with managers that don't support talent?
So two things that I can share. Okay. So the first thing I would say is, there are sometimes managers in situations and workplaces and cultures that are truly toxic. Okay. So what does, like, this is my definition of toxicity. Okay. If you're getting constantly like microaggressions, gaslighting, racism, sexism, okay, then it's a truly toxic environment. The only thing that you need to do is run away. You're not
Yeah.
going to succeed. Okay. You're not
Mm-mm.
going to go anywhere in this environment. Run away the fastest possible way, because the longer you stay is going to hurt your self-confidence, is going to hurt your voice. And so jump ship. Okay.
Mhm.
The second thing that I would say is not all bosses that we think are toxic are really toxic. Okay. So if you find that your boss is a micromanager, if you find that your boss is completely aloof and they don't give you time, if you find that your boss constantly tells you that you're not ready, but they're,
Mm.
but you don't get the sexism, the racism, and like all of the other things that I mentioned, just simply because your boss is constantly telling you that you're not ready, or they're not giving you the feedback that you need, they're giving you this wishy-washy feedback, doesn't make them a toxic manager.
Right.
Okay. That doesn't make it a toxic culture. It's this thin line that we need to kind of understand, because in that case the responsibility is really yours to educate your manager on why you deserve the promotion. Like, it is your responsibility to bridge the gap between why you think you're ready for that promotion and why your manager thinks you deserve that promotion.
Mm.
And what you need to do to be able to do this is to tell better stories. Okay.
Mhm.
So I would love to be able to share this
Yeah.
story framework that I have taught to now dozens and dozens of my clients, and it works every single time, whether
Nice.
you're looking to ask for promotion, whether you're looking to really have an excellent performance review, or you're looking to find another job. Okay.
Mhm.
It is my proprietary story framework that I call SOAR.
Mm.
SOARR. Okay.
Mm.
And I'll tell you in a second why that works wonderfully. And why I hate STAR framework that
Mm.
everybody uses in interviews, that everybody uses for storytelling. Everybody has heard about STAR: situation, task, action, result.
Mm.
Okay. It doesn't work for us, especially women, because women have a tendency to underplay our achievements. Okay. We think that what we are doing is something that everybody does. So there's nothing special about what we are doing. Okay. There's nothing special about the challenges that we overcome. Okay. There's nothing special about the results that we created. So the STAR framework doesn't really give you that opportunity to highlight the big challenges that you faced and demonstrate how the work that you did was paramount, was fundamental to be able to overcome that challenge. But the SOAR framework does. So this is how the SOAR framework works. So situation, obstacle, action, results, and reflection. That's what the SOAR stands for. So again, situation, obstacle, actions, results, and reflection. So you start any story. Let's say you're giving a status update to your manager and saying, "Hey, let's say that a particular feature was giving issues, and you were having a lot of challenges with this sister team, and they were not giving you the resources that you needed, and you did some work with them. You created a business case, and you figured out what needs to happen so that now your product launch can happen on time." Okay, let's say this is the story. So you start with this overall summary to your manager about, "Hey, I wanted to give you an update about this particular feature that we were working on, that you remember we were having the struggle, XYZ struggle with this, and now we have resolved this challenge, and that will lead to XYZ business result. That will lead to an additional $20 million of revenue, expected $20 million of revenue." So you're starting with the overall situation, a 20-second summary of this is the problem and this is the result, a 20-second summary. Then you start diving deeper into it. So now you start getting into the obstacle piece. And when you think about the obstacle piece, think about what would have happened, what would have been the pain point, what would have the company missed or the product missed had you not done what you did. Okay. So then you can talk about, this particular feature that wasn't resolved, that wasn't working. Had we not been able to fix it, then it would have led to X million dollars of loss. It would have led to our customers getting XYZ complaint. And so this was very, very important for us to solve. So you highlight the obstacle. Okay. Then you get into actions. These are the three actions that I take. And I love the power of three. Okay. Talk about these are the three actions I took. I connected with XYZ team. I created this business case for them. I supported their developer in creating a whole plan. And then third, I did this. And then you talk about these three actions. Okay. And once you've done the three actions, now you talk about the business results. So the business results was that we were able to resolve this issue in less than a week, whereas the previous team was struggling with it for over 2 months. And
Mm.
now this has led to that $20 million increase in potential revenue when the product launches on time.
Right.
Okay. So you talk about the quantitative business result. And then finally went where I actually learned from this experience that this particular tool that we used for creating this feature can also be utilized for XYZ other thing that we are doing. And I
Mm.
have these new ideas that I would like to share with you if you have some time. So
Mm.
not only are you storytelling in a way which clearly connects your work to the impact it has created on the company, on the profits of the company, dollar sign, but you're also talking about how you're thinking at the next level with what else can we improve? How else can we make things better? So that reflection piece is really really important because it shows that drive, it shows that innovation, it shows that it shows the initiative, and it shows that you're a leader, and you're not just thinking about your little piece of work, but you're also thinking about how to continuously make things better. So if you really think about it, you're thinking like your manager would.
Mm. Yes. Yeah,
Okay,
that's
and that's
incredible.
what's needed. That's what needed. If you want to move into management, into leadership roles, you have to start thinking like your manager does.
Hmm.
What is keeping them up at night? What
Mm.
problems are they dealing with? How
Right.
do they see the interconnection between all of the work that is under their remit? Like start
Mhm.
thinking about that next level. Like what problems are they trying to solve?
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely seeing ahead. Like you mentioned, like it's like getting your first leadership role is so much more about your ability to see forward than it is your talent. I don't
Mhm.
think so much talent. Like you can't measure talent. Talent is not quantifiable. What is quantifiable is your ability to deliver above and beyond, which I have a simple formula, which is 30%. Like aim for 20 to 30% over delivering on every single objective in the most balanced way you can. Like you don't want to, like you want to negotiate the goals ahead of time so that you're able to do 20-30% over. Like it's strategic. Meaning you're not like working over the weekends trying to deliver 30% over, but you're like more intentional on like which things you sign up for. And to your point, like using the SOAR method to like then convey it in every conversations that you're having, but then being able to see those 2-3 steps ahead. And finally, the only thing you should care about is the company you're employed for. I feel
Yep.
like people are so selfish or get so self-absorbed that they forget that what's the point? Why are you here? Is not so your ego feels better. You're here to make company money. And if you can do it and demonstrate it, then you're gonna get much. And of course tell it in the format that like you shared, then you're gonna go so much farther than everybody else.
I mean, empathy is so underrated, right? Like, I mean,
Mm.
you have to always lead into empathy and really, you know, to your point, like really think about you are employed by this company so that you can make them money, and eventually, and in the process, when you do it the right way and you leverage, you're intentional about how do you leverage
Mm.
that experience for yourself, like you will grow through.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's
And like
win-win.
the underwriting thing is good work, like
Yeah.
great business results. Like without
Yeah.
great business results, nothing will happen.
No.
And I would also say, like you said, like talent, everybody has talent. And if you're working for that company, if you're working for the Fortune 5, or even if you're working for a company, you have done your undergrad, you've done your master's. Like several of my clients have done a master's and a PhD and an MBA, and they work for a Fortune 5, and they still self-judge their talent. Like you have the freaking talent, you have the freaking education, you have the freaking skill. Like there's nothing missing
Yeah.
there. But it's what's missing is that you're not thinking about the company
Mm.
enough, and in the same way, and in the same beat also thinking about how do you leverage whatever you have right now for
Mm.
yourself.
Yes, and I think a lot of people underestimate that. Women underestimate that, especially because we tend to be more like internalize more things. We tend to, of course, have a lot of other barriers that are the bias related, or our experiences are harder in general. So it can be very, very frustrating for women to like sort of see this side. But if they work with coaches like you and me, they can actually formulate a lot of these things. And there's I always tell women, I'm like, this is this there are rules here that you just don't know. There's some sense to this madness that you just don't know yet, and it's a lot about just knowing, which can just shift how you're showing up for your, for your job, and for a lot of these goals that you have, for yourself. And again, creating that win-win is very important. Another thing I've noticed, I'm sure you've noticed this too, is like, it's good to be obsessed with your job, but you must be obsessed with the customer and the company. So if you're customer obsessed, especially in companies like Amazon and all these other places, if you can really embody that as a value and show up like that, uh, you don't need any of these tactics. You will be obsessed. You will look forward. You will think, more deeply about the work that you're doing. You will be able to connect the work, and you will become memorable to everybody. No matter what role you're in. And then when there are leadership openings in other teams, because that's kind of how I grew in my career, is like, whenever there was an opening, people thought about me. I'm
Yeah.
like, why did they think about me? I didn't have to go look for a lot of these things. I was sitting in my office one day, and one of my managers walked in and said, "Oh, do you want this product development role?" I'm like, "Sure, let's do it." It's like, "Yeah, you'll have to interview and everything, but we think you'll be a great candidate." And that is, bringing it back to where we started, which is, that's your personal branding. That's how you're leading in these organizations. So let's talk a little bit about that, Richa. So how can somebody build that kind of image, reputation, uh, in their workplace, to then get their first leadership role, right? And get it in record time? Because again, if we look at statistics, a lot of women are never going to get their due share, in this race. So what do you think, we can do from a personal branding perspective to build that kind of reputation where people think of you as the first person when a role opens?
Yeah, I love what you said about being customer obsessed, and that holds the key to the personal branding piece that I'm going to talk about.
Mm,
So, you know how you said that be customer obsessed, and when you are customer obsessed, everybody would know about you. Okay, but being customer obsessed does not mean that you are a yes woman. Okay, so there's this distinction that when you are customer obsessed doesn't mean that you say yes to everything. Okay, so if you want, so coming back to, and why is this is important for your personal brand, a lot of times I find that women are stuck in this personal brand of reliable, dependable, hardworking, especially when they're individual contributor roles. Okay, because that's what they have done. That is what has gotten them from college up to the few years they have been an individual contributor role. Actually, that's what's expected of you. When the only thing that you should be doing once you get out of college is to work freaking hard, be known as the reliable, dependable employee that everybody can rely on to deliver good results, to be customer obsessed. Okay, but then comes a point at which you have to start looking at your personal brand and really think about whether my personal brand is reflective of all of the work that I've done right now, all the values that I've demonstrated right now, or is my personal brand reflective of the values that are expected of me when I am a leader. Okay, so personal brand always needs to be forward looking. So I want to encourage everybody to ask themselves this question: what are three words that I'm known for right now in the workplace? Okay, and you can get feedback on those three words. You can ask your manager, you can ask your friends, you can ask your most trusted work colleagues, you can ask people around you. um, you can look at your performance reviews and see what are some of the values that you are rated highest on. What are some of the type of words that your management is using for you? If you find there is a repeatable pattern around being known as hardworking, dependable, reliable, supportive, then you need to really think hard about that. These kind of words will keep you stuck in individual contributor roles, because nobody wants to let go of a reliable workhorse. Like, I don't want to let go of my most reliable people. They do the work for me so that my job as a manager becomes easy. So then think about, how can I translate my personal brand to be more forward looking? Where, what are some of the words that your manager is known for? What are some of the things that you want to be known for? What are some of the values that people care about as a leader? Right? So how can you shift that verbiage into, she's a leader, she's a visionary, she is customer obsessed, she's a problem solver. Okay, and that is the shift that we need to make in our personal brand. stop being the yes person, the reliable, the helpful person, to being the more strategic, reliable, being the more strategic leader, visionary, customer obsessed person.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how do you do that? So, like, the next question is obviously, like, how do you do that? You first start understanding, like, at what level is your boss delivering? So, the easiest place to do that is many companies, especially large companies, would have leveling guidelines. Okay.
Hmm.
So, I'm going to take the example of program manager at Amazon. So Amazon had, for a program manager, they had these leveling guidelines starting from a program manager level 4 to program manager level 5 to senior program manager to principal program manager to, let's say, group program manager. And several companies have guidelines like this. If you don't have it, ask your manager, like, what is the expectation at the next level? Okay.
Right.
And then you look at this leveling guidelines, and this typically talks about what is expected of somebody who is at a L5 program manager and a L6 senior program manager. Okay.
Mm.
And what is expected in terms of the scope that you would deliver, in terms of the how independently are you delivering that scope, in terms of the amount of accountability that you take, okay, in terms of your reach to the people, in terms of like how independent you are, and then really evaluate, like, the work that am I doing right now, is it positioning me at L5 program
Mm.
manager, or how can I start saying, like, taking more opportunities or asking for more opportunities to be part of L6 scope,
Mm.
so that when it comes times for the promotion, I can demonstrate that I already am delivering at L6, I
Mm.
already am delivering at that next level. So it becomes a no-brainer for your manager to promote you.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a key. That's the key. One, positioning yourself as the next role that you want as the leader. Always. I mean, I think leadership is a value. You should always be looked up as a leader. That regardless of
Yeah.
what your title is, you're always leading the organization. You're always leading your peers. You're always leading a project. You're never like sitting and waiting for guidelines or like somebody to come save you. Because that doesn't fly really well in corporate, anyways. And now I don't even know how much more. I mean, I don't even want to know how much more cutthroat it must have gotten now that there's less workforce and more work and more pressure, and people have to deliver twice as much as they did before. So that is definitely like an excellent advice to remember, is like, be the leader and then make sure that that is at the forefront of what people recognize you as, which is very intentional. I mean, I think in business also we do this where we're super intentional on what our image is and how we protect it. And I feel like you must do that in your professional life now more than ever before, because if there came a time of layoff, leaders are not laid off. Like, leaders are actually promoted, because there's a 200-year backlog to become a CEO. If you go through the regular cycle, it'll take forever. So they're like, no, we want all the leaders we can get, because we don't have people to fill up our positions up top. And so that's just fantastic advice. And I think the second thing you mentioned about knowing the next levels and the expectations, I think educating yourself on how the organization works, what's required, is just so underrated. And I could not have grown my career if I didn't know everything about every role, about every department. And I'm like, what do I need? What do I need?
I mean, I will tell you, when I was at Schlumberger, a measly mechanical engineer, literally every week, if not more than once a week, I would go to our internal,
Yeah,
infra
website.
site, which was called the CNP. Essentially, it had the role trajectory of every single person in the company,
Yeah.
and you could pull somebody's name, you could pull the CEO's name, and see exactly which role he started from, and how did he navigate his way up, what kind of roles he did. And I would do that every single week to see, oh, okay, so this person started as a mechanical engineer, then they moved into product management, then they moved to supply chain. Why did they move to supply chain? I got curious. Okay. And then why did they move to HR? Oh, then if you want to, I could see a pattern. Like, if you see enough profiles, you can start seeing a pattern that anybody who becomes a president for a particular organizational unit has a stint in supply chain. They
Mm.
had a stint in operations. They have a stint in
I love
human
it.
resources. Then you can start kind of evaluating, okay, these are the type of skill sets that you want to build, and then ask your management to give you those opportunities.
Yes.
Right. So coming back to this question you asked me, were you intentional or just let things happen? I let this learning, that I let this discovery that I did on the intra side, I let the discovery that happened through chats, through with mentors, to educate me on what skills I wanted to intentionally gather, and then I intentionally asked for those skills or build my profile in a way that would get me the skill set that I need to move into leadership positions. So
Mm.
there's a lot of intentionality baked into it. And yes, some
Mm.
of that comes from mentors, but really like coaches, like that's kind of like the work that we do, right? With coaching, we have done our time. We have figured out that there's a process to this madness. There is
Yeah.
rhythm to this chaos. There is rhythm to
Yes.
this chaos. And my simple take is, if one person has figured it out, if there is one CEO, I can be that person.
Yeah.
Simple as that. One
Yeah.
person got promoted, I can be that person. I can figure it out,
Wow.
how I need to get there. It may take me some more time than it took the other person, and that's fine. But working with the coach accelerates that process, and that's
Yes.
really what the benefit of coaching is to bring that ease and speed in getting to the goals that you want to, because you can figure it out on your own as well. But
Yeah.
if you want to go there faster, if you want to go there with less pain, like, get the support.
Yeah. Yeah.
Start with
And it,
books. Start
yeah.
with books. Start with podcasts, like whatever floats your boat. And then whenever you're ready, like, get the help you need to
Yes.
go to your career
Absolutely.
goals.
And I
Yeah.
think now it's even more important than before because, again, the industry's shifting so much. It's so volatile. And you really don't have the luxury that maybe you and I had of like just figuring it out. I think the pace is so much faster. And again,
Yeah.
the hire fast, fire fast culture is so much more prevalent. And then the economy has taken a really weird turn after COVID. And I think like it's too expensive if people choose to figure this out on their own. It's just very, very expensive to be able to do that. Expensive on your mental health, expensive on
Yeah.
your pocket, expensive on your career trajectory, because you and I probably grew in our careers by being on our toes all the time. Like you can't miss, like you have to be that performer that cannot miss a single shot. Like because the review cycles and promotion cycles are a year or two apart. So meaning if you've missed a year and you did nothing, now you have to build the next 2 years. And just you're adding years to the process by waiting too long, because it's not like they're going to promote you out of turn just because you took our program like 3 months in.
Yeah.
That's not how promotions work. It's a long game. And I think people who try to figure it out themselves are not realizing the clock that's ticking and how far behind it's setting them with every quarter that they don't actually do something about all of
And
these
and
things.
that's like my biggest pet peeve, right? I've had at least two conversations where I spoke with ladies who were coming back from a maternity, or who had actually were going on a maternity leave or were on a maternity leave, and we were talking about like you could see that they're really stuck in their careers, and we talked about like why you need to, if you are looking to get support, why you need to get that now versus waiting 6 months after you come back from maternity leave. I mean, I came back from both of my maternity leaves with a promotion, right?
Yeah.
And I really challenge them on, if you're going to wait for 6 months, you're not just waiting on 6 months, you're actually losing a year, because by the time you come back, which is 6 months from now, and then it takes you another 6 months to find your footing or whatnot, because you haven't done any work to figure out your footing in the 6 months that you're gone. You've not been intentional about how you're going to come back. You're actually losing that whole year out. Okay.
Exactly.
And I remember like one of my clients who was making about 150K, after he sat in that just inaction, and that I will figure it out, I will think about it, I will do things, even though he was feeling that he can do much better, for like a year. And he, like, literally he's leaving he left $500,000 on the table because of that.
Mhm.
Because money compounds,
Yeah.
right? Like
Opportunity. Yeah.
we miss the opportunity cost, right? Like, it's the
For
opportunity
sure.
cost of not just that difference in compensation, but the opportunity cost of compounding of that
Mhm.
compensation that happens
Yeah.
over your lifetime.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
The
take
long term
action now.
impact.
Yeah, don't
And
wait 6 months to take action.
right. And I think the other big problem is the reputation, right? So the personal brand. So meaning the months and the years that you don't intentionally build a brand, you have built something that doesn't support you. And I think it's much harder to change the image and change the narrative and change the personal branding than it is to get a promotion. You can get a promotion, but the fact that you were not the high performer for 5 years, people have already formed a lot of opinions about you that you're going to have to do something crazy now to actually flip that. And I think a lot of clients that I work with is the same thing. I'm like, let's do these 5 things this week and see what happens. And people are like taken aback. they're like, wait, where did this come from? Like, this is not what I expect from this person, right? And so you need these kind of strategies and support to accelerate that shift in perspective on how people see you, because that's, I feel like there's no price tag you can put on it of like the image that you're losing, the reputation that you're building, which will be so much harder to break, if you don't do anything about it in a more creative manner, like by joining programs and working with coaches like yourself. So tell us a little bit about how can women work with you if they're looking for their first leadership role. I know you have an exciting workshop coming up, so talk to us a little bit about that, Richa.
Yeah, so Prasha, I am really, really, really passionate about supporting emerging women leaders, especially when they're looking to get into their first time leadership role. I think the biggest difference that we can make to our self confidence and our skills to fast track our career is at that step when we find ourselves stuck in individual contributor roles and want to move up to management positions. And so all of the work that I do is around that. I actually have, as you mentioned, I actually have a masterclass coming up on Saturday, March 2nd, where I'm going to be sharing the exact 4-step strategy, the exact 4-step process that I followed that helped me gain 5 promotions in 10 years, that helped me make that jump from oil and gas to a 200K leadership role at Amazon. That has helped me build this multi 6-figure coaching business. So I'm going to be spilling the beans on all of that. If you are watching this live, I think there's a QR code that you can go to and sign up for that webinar. You can also go to pinkcareers.com, and over there's a link to sign up for the webinar as well. And join me live. We're going to be similar to this particular discussion that we had right now. You're going to find a lot of value from that masterclass as well.
Yeah, I love it. Excellent. And if somebody wanted to work with you privately, what are some options?
So I do work. I do one-on-one coaching for folks. Honestly, it's not for everybody. I only work with clients who are ready to take some serious action to bring some serious change and growth to their careers. So I do work one-on-one with select clients. And if you want to explore one-on-one coaching with me, it's a 6 months package where our goal is to build that career and life of your dreams, okay, that you've been waiting on. Just build that career and life of your dreams. And I am a big proponent of women making lots and lots of money. So that's something that we bake into our goals as well. But yeah, absolutely, send me a message on LinkedIn, send me a DM on Instagram. I'm at Pinkcareers _. I know it's a funny one, but Pinkcareers _ on Instagram. You search Richa Bansal on LinkedIn, I'll pop up. Send me a message there and would happy to have a chat.
Excellent. We're going to take one question before I ask you my final question, Richa. And Latika here asked, I'm a graduate student with my first year pursuing, hold on one second, I'm going to do this. I'm a graduate student in my first year pursuing information systems on an F1 visa. I would be grateful if you could share what steps I can take to build my profile while I'm still in school. I'm looking to pursue a career in product management or program management roles.
Yeah. So what my recommendation to you would be, already start looking at how can you build some real life experience in product management. Okay. So not all experience that you put under work experience needs to be paid. And if you're on F1 visa, you can likely not have an external job or internship that is paying unless, your visa kind of allows that. But you can do a pro bono work. Okay. So you can already start building your profile in product, doing like 0 to 1 sort of product, build 0 to 1, excuse me, build 0 to 1 products. You can work with small companies, startups that are looking for some pro bono support to support their product management activities. So start building your portfolio now. Okay, there may be product management clubs on campus, depending on which campus you go to. So you can start taking part into that. There's a lot of creators and influencers who are on LinkedIn, and they're always look like all of the work that we do, like our one-on-one coaching program that we talked about, is a product. Okay,
Right.
and then you can look at supporting them pro bono and eventually put that on your profile as real work experience. So the key is that don't let your visa limit the work experience that you can build to ultimately demonstrate that you have experience in product management.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. I love that. And I think one other thing on the same lines is, again, building that personal brand, building that network of people, which is really accessible to you, regardless of like your visa status or like where you are right now in life. You can always write every day on LinkedIn. Like, that's not too hard. You can always put your own opinions. You can do so many other things that I think are undervalued at that level. One thing I would say though is look into all the graduate training programs that a lot of these companies offer. I know Schlumberger has one. I know like a lot of these companies have graduate training programs. So one thing that I've seen F1 student make a mistake again and again is wait till the last minute to find a job, and you must start a year before, because otherwise you'll miss out on the graduate training programs. That's how I found my job a year before I graduated, and that's how I found the visibility and the speed in my career, because I had all that visibility that came with being a graduate trainee. And so it's a fantastic opportunity, and I feel like it's not talked about enough. So my 2 cents would be just look into more of those graduate training programs in either product management or program management or even any of these big techs. And then try to get your foot in the door, because that's going to open a lot of like accelerated opportunities for leadership roles in your career.
And if I may add, I agree with you, and especially for my PhD students, like my master's and PhD students who are doing, let's say, RA-ship under a professor, they often find themselves not taking up any internship opportunities because every summer they're working with their PI on that research project, and that is one of the biggest mistakes that you can make. To your point, not finding an internship and only finding a job once they're close to graduation.
Yeah.
That is a huge mistake. The fastest way to actually find a job once you are on a visa status, like on a H1 or a OPT, is really to find an internship that can convert into a full-time
Yes.
offer.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Excellent. So what's your favorite book, Richa, before I let you go?
Oh, my favorite book. Oh my God. So one of my favorite book that honestly changed my life several years ago, I cannot recommend it enough, is called Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office
Mm,
by Louis P. Frankel. Okay. Nice girls don't get the corner office. And it talks about 101 mistakes that women make
wow.
that sabotages their career growth. I think this book was written like 40 years ago. But
Mm,
it is still, it's like a fan favorite. It is definitely my favorite book. And I want to share one lesson that I learned from it that still I'm reminded of every single time I write an email. Is like how many times women say sorry.
hmm.
Okay, so to this date, when I write an email, I make sure that I'm not saying sorry for things that I'm not sorry about.
Yeah.
Okay, I am not sorry about sending an email 2 days later, honestly. Like if I'm 2 days late on sending an email, I'm not sorry about it. And I would say, thank you for your patience.
Yeah.
Because I got busy with other stuff that were more important than your email. That's why I couldn't get to the email. I just can't tell them that.
Yeah.
But I'm not sorry for sending
Because
that email 2 days late.
right, because I think the other part of all of this is the more like every action contributes towards your personal brand. So the more sorry you say, the less seriously people take you. The more you try to respond to things super quickly, the more they expect you to respond to things super quickly. So it's like you're building expectations every single day, every single action you take, whether it's the action of like showing up 3 minutes early to a meeting and doing it consistently again and again and again, or whether it's being late consistently, and now suddenly that is what people remember about you, when you want them to remember you as a leader, and now you've just messed it
All
up
right.
with a small action that that you don't even like intentionally think about, like you don't
Yeah.
consciously pay attention to. So that's my big pet peeve, is like people don't realize the impact of little things that build their reputation or tears it down. And to your point, like saying sorry is such a big one for women. Yeah. Love it.
Absolutely. Like every single action, you're training people to respond.
Exactly. Every
Mhm.
single time, whether it's your children, whether it's your partner, whether it's your manager, like it's very, very, like you will be surprised how much you can take control of how people view you by making these small adjustments and reading books like this. So thank you so much, Richa. We can geek out about this stuff for hours. There is no, I have no doubt about it. But thank you so much for coming back to her STEM story, sharing your story as well as how women can move into leadership roles. And I am really excited for your masterclass and your programs that are supporting so many women and even men move into these leadership roles that they truly deserve. So thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on the podcast. I always enjoy our conversations. Thanks, Prasha.
Yes. Thanks everybody for listening. I'll see you again next week with another Her Story episode.